IDC Woodcraft.com.
Hello, my CNC brother or sister. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft. Welcome to this Vectric video where we're going to solve a little bit of a problem that I have seen quite a few CNCers run into. I got an email from a CNC sister. Yes, I love seeing CNC sisters in this creative community. She's new to the Vectric software and so is trying to work through this, and she's not really sure how to. What she's trying to do is create these really thin circles on this project, and her problem is that the size of the circles that she's creating is too big for the machine that she has, which is a Bob Evo 5. So she has to split it in two, and she's not really sure how to do it. So I'm going to run through the technique at which I would do this. There are other ways to skin this cat, and if you have other suggestions, please put them down in the comments down below. So what we're going to do is get into her project. Now, there's one thing that I also am going to be covering in this, is it's a very delicate project, meaning the way you set up your tool path is going to have a lot of attention paid to it, because if you're too aggressive, what we're going to be working on will break. Also, the way you set the project up is also very important in this one because it is so delicate. And I'll explain that as we move along, and I'll put links down to the things that I talk about, the videos I recommend to make sure you know about as we're going through this. So we're going to dive into the Vectric software. This will work on any of the Vectric softwares, Cut2D, VCarve, and the Aspire. All right, Jackie, this one's for you and every other newbie CNCer. You're going to learn some new stuff in this video. Let's get into the Vectric software.
IDCWoodcraft.com.
I'm now in the VCarve Pro version 11 of the Vectric software. Now, this will work with pretty much any version of Vectric, and it'll work in any one of their variations. Cut2D Desktop, Cut2D Pro, VCarve Desktop and Pro, and Aspire. So this is Jackie's project. And what she wants to do is cut these circles out. However, her machine is not big enough to cut them out in one piece. So she needs to split them in half, which is going to be a delicate operation because they are very thin. So we'll talk about the tool paths later on in this video. Right now, we're going to set this up for Jackie so she can cut it appropriately. Now, Jackie is using a BobsCNC Evolution 5 or Evo 5, which has a cut space of 24 inches by 48 inches. And the Bobs, I believe that cut space is long-wise. So the 48 inches would be going up and down. What we're going to do, first of all, is create the workspace of the Bobs Evo 5, if I am correct with this. So I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm selecting rectangle, and I want to make sure I am set on 0, 0 for the X and Y, and the center radio button is selected around that little square thing that has the round buttons. And then I'm going to set it up with a 24 by 48, which I've already done, and click Create. And I'm going to close that. So now you can see I created a rectangle. Now currently the project will actually fit inside the machine envelope. So as it's designed out right now, Jackie, you don't have to split it out. However, Jackie is saying it does need to be bigger than this. So we're first going to make this bigger. Let's just say that the project is 36 inches tall. So what I'm going to do is change the scale of the project by selecting everything. I just created a window, started right up here, held my left mouse button down, and just create a window that touches everything. And we have selected Dasher and the circle. And now we're going to change the size of it. So the way you change the size, and take note of this because this will help you adjust project sizes later on after you've done some design work and you decide you want to make it bigger or smaller. Under the Transform Objects menu, the second icon in, when you hover over it, it says Set Selected Object Size. Click that button and a menu will open up. And what we're going to do is change the size of this project. So we want to make sure we are selected in the center of the rectangle for the anchor point. The anchor point is saying that we are selecting the center of the project right here. The project being the circle and the word. If I selected the lower corner, then it would change the scale. We're changing the scale of this thing. We're going to make it bigger. It would start to change the scale from the lower left corner, which means it would upsize it going in an upper diagonal right direction way. We would just want it to expand out from the center. So you need to select the center anchor point. And then we need to set the size of the project. So we're going to say that the whole thing is 36 inches around. So I'm simply going to click width and type in 36. Now, before you type that number in, you want to make sure this little checkbox is checked, link X and Y. That will lock the scaling in for the height and the width change. And then we will select apply. And now that has changed the size of the project. So we can close this menu now by clicking the close button. And now Jackie's project is too big for her machine. So now she has to segment the project into two halves. Now looking at the project, if we were to segment up and down, then we're going to have a little bit of an issue here. I probably wouldn't want to segment it right around this area. I would rather segment it side to side where the circles are completely separated from each other, just like that. So we're going to have to literally rotate this whole project. So that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to click in this area right here with my left mouse button and hold the mouse down and come down and select the circles and the name Dasher. Now, the whole circle, all of the circles were selected because it is currently in a group, and we're going to have to ungroup it. But you notice that the name Dasher is not selected completely. That's because it has been ungrouped or has been welded, which is something I talk about in other videos. So I'm not going to cover it here. So we need to fix that. We need to select Dasher as well. So I am going to, first of all, click out to the left of the circles. Just click once with my left mouse button to deselect. Then I'm going to hold from the left my left mouse button and create a window until I totally encompass the name Dasher with that rectangle. And what that does is whatever is inside the rectangle will be selected. So now I'm going to hold the Shift button down, which will allow me to start to select other objects at the same time. So when I hold Shift down, I can create another window. I'm going to go from right to left. And now the circle has been created. So now we have everything created. Now we need to rotate this 90 degrees so we can split the circle the way I want to split it and set it on the machine the way I would set it on the machine. And the way we do this is by pressing R on the keyboard. When you press R, that opens up the rotate menu. And you see over in the left, we have the rotate menu open and we've got some information here. So we want to rotate this from the center of the project. Now you notice that there are some coordinates here. And what that's saying is if we select, right now, I'm going to stop for a second, back up. Right now, that is telling us that we are going to rotate from the center of whatever has been selected. So the center is behind this little circle that's in here. You see there's a little odd circle. And sometimes that throws people off because I can grab that circle and I can literally move it without moving anything else. What that little circle is representing is the rotation center of the name Dasher and the circles. I'm going to drag this all the way up here. And then I'm going to just click this outer blue button on any one of the four corners. And I'm just going to hold my left mouse button down and I'm going to rotate. And you see there's a little plus symbol right there where my mouse is. That's the rotation point of this project. Now I don't want that up there. I want it on center. So I'm going to simply let go, and you can see Dasher is now crooked. So we just hold the control button down and press Z, and that brings us back to the last position. So you see now it says use coordinates. That's because I had that piece moved, and it's now using some different coordinates. What we're going to do is now come over to the center of the box and select that. We have now changed our anchor point back to the center. Okay, so the anchor point is now the center. We have to reselect. So I just reselected the window. If you lose your selection, just reselect everything. And now we are now set on our anchor point being the center, which will be this little dot in the middle. If that little circle gets moved on you, just simply come in and select the center and you'll be okay. If the circle shows up, it will when you say use coordinates, and then there it is, and it has shown up, and I can move it again. Simply go back and select anchor, and that will go back to center or disappear on you. And now we need to rotate it 90 degrees. You have a selection of absolute or relative. We want to be on absolute. What that means is it is going to reference its current orientation, and everything that we rotate will be based on the current orientation or the 0 angle right here. So we simply want to go to the 90. You can see it says 0 right now. I'm going to change that to 90 and apply, and it's going to rotate Dasher up. So now we're going to close it, and now we can start working in the circle, but we still have a couple more things to get ready. Up in the top in layers, Jackie has a layer called Frame SVG, and then she has a layer 1. So I'm going to see what's on each layer. If you ever get a project and there's multiple layers, you need to run through the layers to see what's on each layer. And if nothing is on a layer, just delete the layer. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn one of these off and leave the other one on. So both of them are turned on right now with the little light bulb. They're yellow, indicating they're turned on. When you click the light bulb, it'll turn the layer off. So I'm going to click Frame SVG, and everything goes away, which means there's nothing on layer 1. So I'm going to turn Frame SVG back on, and then hover over layer 1, right click it, and come down to delete and select delete this. Now if there was any information on that layer, I would have gotten a warning box asking me, am I sure I want to delete that layer? So we have that, but now I need to make sure that we keep Dasher and the circles protected, and the way we're going to do that is by creating new layers and work on new layers as opposed to messing with the original. So Frame SVG is the layer right now. I'm going to rename that layer by clicking on it, and then I'm simply going to call it Master. And that tells me that whatever's on that layer, I don't mess with. If I need to mess with something, I move it to a different layer so I can work with that. Now, I have videos, a video that talks about layers and how to work them. I will link that down below. So I'm going to create 2 new layers. First of all, we're going to click over here to close the layer box. I want a layer for the right half of the circle and a layer for the left half of the circle. So we're going to come back up to layers, open up that box, and come down and add new layer. I'm going to click that twice, and you see that they are highlighted. So I'm going to just type into this one, layer 2. We'll type left circle. In layer 1, you click it twice, and I'm going to call that right circle. And then we just simply click off into the white space inside the box for that name to take. And that is now taken. And now I'm going to click out in the gray space to close that box. And now we're going to copy the circles over to that layer. So I'm going to first select it. Now you notice as I select it, it turns into solid purple. And what that means is that is grouped. We will need to ungroup them after we move them over to the layers. I'm going to leave the original grouped, and I'll explain grouping in just a moment. So we have that selected, and then you can just click anywhere in the screen with your right mouse button, and a menu will open up. Down at the bottom, we are going to copy to layer. And you see right now master is checked. So I'm going to click right circle. And now it has copied that to the right circle layer. And you'll see that in a minute. Now I want to copy it again to the left circle layer. So I'm going to right click again, copy to layer, and I'm going to copy it to left circle. You can see right circle is now clicked. So I'm just going to click left circle. And now I'm going to show you that this is on every layer. Dasher is only on the master layer. So I'm going to come up to the layers box. And remember, we have the light bulbs here. So first I'm going to turn off master. And what that's going to do is going to turn off the dasher, the rectangle size of the machine we created, and the circle that was on that layer. Now I'm going to click the right circle layer light bulb. And you notice nothing changed. And what that's telling me is now I know that I have the circle on the left circle layer because the light bulb is still lit up. If that light bulb is lit up, you can see what's on that layer. If the light bulb's turned off, it makes it invisible. Now I'm going to click left circle light bulb, and now everything disappears. And I'm going to click right circle light bulb, and there's the circle. So that's telling me the circle is on every single layer. Now I want to make sure I'm working on the right layer to start with. So we're going to go to the right circle layer. So what I'm going to do is start creating the right side of this circle. So we select right circle, and you know you're working on right circle layer when it says right circle up in the blue box here. So now we can just click out here, and it still says right circle. And now we're going to select the circle, and we need to ungroup it. Grouping prevents you from editing a series of vectors. Anything that is grouped. Basically what that means is they're all linked together as one unit. And we have to ungroup it so we can start to edit this circle and split it in half to do what we're going to do. So with it selected, simply going to right click anywhere, and down in the middle of the menu it says ungroup objects. In the menu that's there, simply go to the second item and select that. And now you see everything is dashed. That's telling us we can now edit it. Every vector is independent of the other vectors. So now I click out in space here to deselect it. And what I'm going to do is create a line down the middle. Now, first thing is, one of the things that may be throwing you off is the material size, this big white box. So I need to change that white box size to the project size, the material size I'm going to be working with. So I should have done that before, but we're going to do it now. I want to show you real quick again. I'm going to turn on master layer, and we have the rectangle up here indicating the size of the machine. And obviously right now, no matter what, the circle can't be cut. So actually I'm going to do this in just a moment, because we're going to use this to determine the size of our project. So I just turned off the layer again. Now we're on right circle layer. And all I'm going to do is come and grab a straight line and simply start up in the middle here. Now you notice that when I hover over the gray axis line, that it shows a dashed line. We want the snaps to be turned on in order to do this, in order to split this properly so that both circles come out just right. And right now snaps are not turned on, and the snaps are these two items up in the upper right of the box. So you have one with a little square and one with two little squares, and you know they're not turned on when there's not a box around them. So I'm going to click both of them, and now you notice a box is around them. So we're going to roll with that. I want to make sure the snaps are turned on. And now with them on, and we are in line mode, we're going to hover over the center axis up and down. I'm going to click once with the mouse button, and now I have a line. And I'm going to come down, and anywhere down at the bottom, as long as our mouse is right on the center line, it's having a little trouble snapping to it because there's other things that it's referencing to. But I'll talk about snaps in another video. But now we are directly on that line. And we can tell by the number that's right next to the cursor. It says minus 90 degrees for an angle. That tells me that I'm perfectly up and down. So I'm going to select that line, click my left mouse button, and now I've created a line. Now I'm going to hit the space bar and close the line mode. Now we are going to use this exact line on the left circle layer as well, so we don't mess anything up. We want everything to be exact here. So what we're going to do is copy that line over to left circle layer. So what I did is just select that line, and anywhere in the screen simply right click, come down and copy to layer left circle. So now that line is on left circle. We can just confirm that by coming over here and turning off right circle and turning on left circle, and there is the line there. So we're going to turn left circle off. I want to show you something. Okay, nope. We're going to turn left circle off and right circle back on, and then just click out here just to make sure everything is deselected. And so now what we're going to keep is everything on the right hand side of this line. And we have to create closed vectors. So now we get to do the fun work. I love to cut because the cut function is so cool, or the trim function. Under Edit Objects is a pair of scissors. Select the scissors and make sure the checkbox in that menu that's opened up is checked. And with that, just go to town, cutting everything on the left-hand side of the project. So I'm just holding the left mouse button down and I'm dragging over everything. Just like that. Now this did not cut because it's not crossing any lines. So we'll simply delete it in a little bit. But first I want to cut this line, that line, that line, and then we're going to go down to the bottom and select this line, and this line. I'm going to close the cut operation, or the scissors, close that, and then I'm simply going to select that element there, which is the half moon that's on the left side, and hit the delete button on my keyboard. And now I'm going to grab, if I select anything over here, most of it is going to highlight with the exception of that. And what that's telling me is everything here is one closed vector, which is exactly what I want. But we want to select both items. So from the right side of the semicircle, we're going to create a window that's going to cross over everything that's there, just like that. And now we just want to center this up to the project center. So I'm going to click the white crosshair target button under Transform Objects, and then up at the top, select the center button. And now the circle has been moved within the machine space, and we are going to double check that by selecting Master. And what I'm going to do is, because that's kind of confusing, I'm simply going to take this rectangle, I'm going to copy it over to layer right, and I'm going to right click again and copy it over to layer left. And now we are set up. I'm going to turn master back off and click right out here, and now we see that it is inside the working space of the machine, and now we can determine what our material size needs to be. And the way we can do that is by selecting the circle, and I think we will go into we can go to scale under Transform Objects, select scale, and you can simply look at the numbers under width and height, and now we know that it's 18.29 wide and 36 tall. So we need a piece of material that is at least that. So our material, we are going to make it 19 wide. We'll say 19.5 wide by 37. So I'm going to close that. We're going to change our job setup. I'm going to select that button, make the width 19.5, make the height 37. And I'm going to now click OK, and now we are set up. The circle piece is inside. You probably want to make this a little bit larger in case you misposition your router bit. So we're going to change it, and we're going to make it a little bit larger. So I'm going to select the Set Job button again under File Operations, and we're going to make it 20.5 by 38. And I will click OK. And now we are set up to go. You would repeat the process for the other one. I will go ahead and set that up right now. So we're going to go to left circle layer. I'm going to select the layers, turn off right circle, turn on left circle, and select left circle so that it says left circle up top, and we are ready to go. And now we need to get rid of the right side of this. So we're going to go get the cut or trim function again, the little scissors, select that, and simply hold the button down and drag down. Oh, we can't, it's grouped. So I'm going to escape to get out of cut mode, select the circle, right click, and ungroup objects, select the second button, and we are ready to go. And we're going to select the scissors again. But now you notice I've got this rectangle here, so it's going to cut a little bit differently from what it did last time, but that's okay. I'm going to hold the button down on the scissors on the left mouse button and simply drag down that way. And you see it only cut to the rectangle. That's because that's the first intersecting line. Easy enough to fix. Hold the scissors down on the inside and simply drag down, and you have taken care of that. And then we are going to again trim out the center in between each circle component or element, down at the bottom, and also here and here, and we are now done with that. I'm going to escape to get out of the trim function and select the other component right there. We don't need it. Hit the delete button. It is gone. And now we're going to select the circle, and we want to make sure we see that dashed line all the way around, and we are good. We have this one element like we did on the other side that is an independent vector. So I'm going to just stay to the right of it, hold my left mouse button down, drag across the two, and now everything is selected. And again, I'm going to center it by selecting the button under Transform Objects, the white target, and we're going to select the center button up top, and that positions our project. So we are now done with this aspect of the project that Jackie has asked for us to do. Once you get good at this, you would have had this bam, 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 and done. But I wanted to make sure that you see my train of thought as I'm doing this. Again, if you have some other techniques for this or some suggestions as to what I was doing, please put them down in the comments. And also, if you're getting anything out of this video, please just hit the thumbs up button right down below there. That helps my videos climb up the charts. And of course, also check the description down below for links for videos I'll be talking about and some other resources that you'll probably want to see related to this. Now, at this point, we need to talk about toolpaths because this project is very delicate, as you can already tell. The very thin components that we're going to be cutting out. And we want to make sure that we don't break anything as we move along. So I'm going to talk about that in this next section as we're setting up the toolpath. So let's get into it now. Please remember to hit the like button, comment down below, and maybe subscribe if you're new to the Vectric software, because I take my time to teach you this kind of stuff. Let's go.
IDC Woodcraft, CNC router bits, because your CNC projects absolutely must look amazing. IDCWoodcraft.com.
So we're going to switch over to toolpath. We're going to click the blue button, and we are going to start on the left circle. And so the way we're going to do this is we're going to profile it using the first toolpath profile, which is the first icon under toolpath operations. Select that, and then first thing we need to do is make sure our cut depth is set right. It is at 0.25, which is the depth of the material that she has set up. And then we have to select our router bit. So I am going to say that this is something that you probably want to use. I would use a 1/16 on this, so long as the flute length is long enough. Now we have a 1/4 inch material, and in the IDC Woodcraft, 1/16 flute length is long enough, so I'm going to grab that by clicking select, and we're going to go into the menu, and we are now in the IDC Woodcraft tool database. If you do not have this database, it is free to you to upload. It'll have every router bit that is in the IDC Woodcraft store and some other router bits as well, and it also has links for all the router bits that are in the IDC Woodcraft store for every tool. We're going to go to the 1/16 down cut end mill, select that, and our feed rate is at 20 and our plunge is at 10, and I'm going to select just select. We're going to come back into edit up in the toolpath and open up the menu, and then we're going to change this number to 25, the feed rate. We'll leave the plunge rate where it's at, select OK. And we want to make sure that we are set on outside right. Now, the number of passes is the concern. The 1/16 inch down cutting end mill is a 1/4 inch in flute length, meaning it can cut a 1/4 inch deep. So right now we have 8 passes, which is going to take a very long time. We don't need 8 passes. We can probably do this with 6. So what I'm going to do, so we don't need 8 passes. We can do this in 6. So I'm going to adjust these passes by clicking Edit Passes. And I'm going to bring this down. Now just keep in mind, the more number of passes that we have, the longer this is going to take. Every pass takes an amount of time, and then it has to do it again and again and again, depending on how you've set it up. So we're going to set this down to 6 passes. It's by clicking the number of passes button here. And I'm simply going to go with that. One of the things I would keep in mind is our last pass cut, which is going to be, each pass is about 0.0417. We can go deeper, but I'm not going to because these circle elements are so thin. So I'm going to leave it at this and click OK. I am being very conservative, but one of the things you absolutely want to be careful of when you're putting this down, use the CA glue method and put tape across the entire board so that every aspect of this circle is being held down. And then when you're done cutting, be extremely careful when you're pulling it back up, because these pieces will break very easy. I hope you're using a denser wood and not using pine, because pine will snap very, very easily when it's this thin. May actually just snap by itself. Okay, so you're set on outside right. We're at 6 passes, and we're going to leave everything else as it is. I'm going to name this Circle Left 116 DC for down cut. So I've named the toolpath Circle Left 116 down cut. Calculate, and we are going to now preview the toolpath by clicking Preview All Toolpaths, and then double click the project, and something didn't work. So I'm going to reset or click Undo Last, either one. And I'm going to look at this for a moment, because this should have not undone all of that. So reset the preview. We're going to go back into the toolpath, and I'm just simply going to come up to cut depth and type in Z equals in case there's a thickness difference. Calculate, preview all toolpaths, double click the material again, and it seems to be disappearing. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Reset the preview, preview all toolpaths. When we look through, we can see, okay, so there's little areas. The only reason it's doing that is because the software is not getting rid of a piece of material somewhere. But I can look around this and see that it has cut all the way through, so I am okay with this. One of the things will be is you will not have sharp corners on the circles. You have little rounded corners, but your daughter will not notice this. Okay, so we are ready to go with that one. Now I'm going to close the preview toolpaths, going to split the screen because now we have to do the right side. So I'm going to click split screen button. And now we are going to come up to layers, turn the left circle off, turn the right circle on, and just click right circle and click down in here. Going to do, so now with the toolpath, simply going to duplicate this to save us setup time. So I right click over it, and there's an item called duplicate. Left click on that. It has now duplicated the toolpath. I'm going to double click that second one, And now I'm going to come over and select the right circle. Now, come down, rename the toolpath to circle right, and click calculate. And so now we have two independent toolpaths for each circle. We're set up. Now we just have to generate the toolpaths for them. So we're going to close this. Now these are two independent toolpaths that we're running, so we need to make sure that we separate them out. In order to write your toolpaths, click the little Save button under Tool Operations at the very bottom row of icons, all the way to the right. Click that, and what we want to do is unclick the Group Where Possible checkbox if you have that checked. And then we want to have visible toolpaths to multiple files. And then we want to make sure both toolpaths are visible. Right now, only one is visible. Visible is when these checkboxes next to them are checked. So we're simply going to check the little box next to the word toolpath, and now both of those are checked. And now we can save the toolpath by clicking Save Toolpaths. And we can see up here it is writing both of the codes for left and right. It says it right there. So we click Save Toolpath, and then we will simply say save wherever destination you want it to be at. I've saved it. We're going to go confirm that it has been saved. I'm going to go into my directory. Here is circle left, and here is circle left. What do we do with that? Circle left, one of the things I didn't do when I resaved this, I'm going to fix the error. We do this often, so I'm glad I did it so you can see exactly what I did, and I can explain what I did wrong. So I'm going to select both of those and delete them. And we're going to come back over to Vectric, and I'm going to save toolpaths again. And this time, I'm going to change the name to Circle only, and click Save. Now when I go back to that directory, now we have circle 1 and it says circle left, and we have circle 2, circle right. So now you know which one is which that you will be running. One final tip with this: remember, this is a delicate project. I do suggest you use some kind of plywood when you're cutting this. That will reduce the breakage potential. Also, use CA glue to hold your project down and all the way across the baseboard, and when you take it up, be very, very careful. CA glue, the link is down below with the 10% discount code, and of course the tool database down below. There's a link for a video that will show you how to install it, and that video will tell you how to get it. And with that, give me a thumbs up, comment down below, give some other suggestions to Jackie, and subscribe. Whatever else you do, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Happy CNCing.
IDC Woodcraft.com